Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We'll start in a minute. There was a challenge in network problem. I had network problems here where I'm staying. I'll start in a minute. I'm finalizing the connections. A minute.
No problem. No problem.
Colleagues, can you all see the slides?
I can.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you so much for joining, my brother and my sisters. The presentation will focus on the role of ward committees in encouraging community participation in local government. And I did this study at Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality. This study is based on my dissertation on my master's in public administration. So this is a summary of my dissertation, and my dissertation is available for sharing with whoever who wants a full dissertation. I can share it with anyone who wants to get a full dissertation. What I'll do in this session, I'll just give you an abstract of my dissertation and give you the objectives of the study, give you the research questionnaires that I followed, give you a brief research methodology, give some definitions of the terms and concepts that I've used, also give you an overview of the Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality, and then go straight to the research findings and analysis and give you the conclusions and recommendations. Then we can discuss after that. The study looked at the role of the ward committees in encouraging community participation in local government. And also this was informed by the fact that there are various laws in our country that were enacted to support community participation in local government. But besides having these laws, the community participation in local government is not up to scratch. And I can report to you that the major findings of my study indicated that there is political manipulation of ward committee election process. There is poor working relationship between the ward committees members and ward councillors. There is inadequate training of ward committee members, and ward committee members do not implement any measures to encourage maximum community participation in the affairs of municipalities. So this is a brief summary of the findings of this study, highlights that there's complexities associated with the ward committee system as a necessary mechanism to encourage community participation in local government in South Africa. So if we don't have effective ward committee system, you are likely to have an inadequate community participation in that local government. The ward committee system was established to ensure that there is maximum community participation in the affairs of the municipalities. But by this research, I've discovered that there is political manipulation of ward committee election processes. There is poor working relationship between the ward committee members themselves and the ward councillors. There's inadequate training of the ward committee members, and that makes them not to be able to do their work. And also we have got ward committee members who are not implementing any programs associated with their programs. Like I said, the objectives of my study was to look and assess the understanding of the roles and responsibility of the ward committees by the ward committee members and the ward councillors. So I went down to assess whether they understand their roles and responsibilities as ward committees, and also look at whether the ward councillors themselves understand the roles and responsibility of the ward committees. I also went down and looked at the challenges that the ward committee members are encountering in encouraging community participation in Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality. I looked at the measures that ward committee members are implementing to promote community participation, and also assess any form of support that Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality is providing to the ward committees of within Ephraim Mogale for them to effectively encourage community participation in the affairs of that municipalities. I also assessed the extent in which these ward committee members influence the municipal council decisions-making process. So I had about 5 objectives of my study. 1, understanding the roles and responsibilities of the ward committee members. 2, look at the challenges that ward committee members are encountering in doing their work. 3, the measures that these ward committee members are implementing to promote community participation. The support that municipalities giving to the ward committees, and also the extent in which the ward committee members influence the decisions of the municipalities. Those were the objectives of the study. When one has to assess the objectives of the study, there are key questions that one has to ask. So I formulated 5 key questions for me to be able to assess, to reach the objectives of my study. The first question was, what are the roles and the responsibilities of the ward committees? Second question was, what are the challenges that the ward committees are encountering in encouraging community participation in Ephraim Mogale? The third question was, what measures are the ward committees carrying out in attempting to encourage community participation in Ephraim Mogale? The third question was, are there any support services that the ward committees are receiving from the municipality? The fifth question was, to what extent are the ward committees in Ephraim Mogale able to influence municipal council decision making? So these questions, I formulated them in order to achieve the objectives of my study. Carrying out this study, I adopted a qualitative research methodology. And I then adopted the 3 methods of collecting information. First, it was focus group interviews with ward committees, one-on-one interviews with ward councillors, and even some of the ward committee members, and I did document reviews. I adopted the triangulation method of focus group interviews, one-on-one interviews and the document reviews, so that then I can then therefore reach into the conclusions and the recommendations in my study. For the focus group discussions, I scheduled about 8 focus group discussions. And of the 8 scheduled focus group discussions, only 5 were conducted. I scheduled a focus groups discussion on the 13th of June 2015. The second one with Ward 3 on the 13th of June 2015. The third one with Ward Committee in Ward number 5 on the 13th of June 2015. The fourth one was with Ward Committee of Ward 7 in the 15th of June 2015. The fifth one was with Ward Committee of Ward 12 on the 17th of June after my birthday. The sixth one was with the Ward Committee of Ward 13 on the 18th of June 2015. The seventh one was with Ward 14 on the 19th of June 2015. And the eighth one was with Ward 16 on the 19th of June 2015. Out of all the 8 scheduled focus group discussions, only 5 were conducted for various reasons. One reason was that other Ward Committee members were not available when I arrived at the venue. Other reason was that other Ward Committee members decided not to participate because they said there's been so many researches and those researches are not yielding any results. So I conducted only 5 group discussions. In terms of the one-on-one interviews, I scheduled 10 of the one-on-one interviews. And out of the 10, only 6 were conducted. The reasons are a little bit similar with the reasons why I did not conduct so many focus group discussions, because some of the ward councillors were not available. Some of the people that I've targeted to interview did not participate, citing reasons that there have been so many researches and those researches are not yielding any results. So those are the first two methods that I've conducted, the focus group discussion and the one-on-one interviews. In terms of the document reviews, I reviewed over 140 documents, which include the thesis or dissertations which are related to the topic that I was researching, the scholarly articles, the policies, the legislations of our country. So all in all, I've read over 140 documents as part of my document review. And those documents, I have put them in these various slides. These are the various documents that I've read, and I'm prepared to share, like I said, the full dissertation to anyone who wants it so that they can go and review all these over 140 documents that I've reviewed. All these are the documents that I've reviewed, which included a document which is titled Public Participation Operational Policy Framework of Ephraim Mogale. I've looked at the Integrated Development Plan 2014 draft of Ephraim Mogale. I've looked at an article by Kwala and Theoren titled Beyond Community Meetings. I've looked at a document by Kabani which says active participation through ward committees. All in all, it was over 140 documents that I've reviewed. That is the research methodology that I've followed. Like I said, the topic that I was researching was about the role of the ward committees in encouraging community participation in local government. So the key concepts or terms that I was looking for, it was the local government, the ward committees, and community participation. So in the beginning, I had to look at these 3 terms and concepts. 1, local government, ward committees, and community participation. In terms of the local government, I found the definition of local government in section 151 of the Constitution that indicates that local government consists of the municipalities. But Kanda explains it further, says local government deals with matters concerning the people living in particular localities. While the Constitution says local government consists of the municipalities, Sikanda explains that it deals with the matters concerning the people living in particular localities. Madumo also adds in that and say, local government is an inclusive administration system with a local sphere of government that involves community planning in service delivery. Also, Stones provide the definition and say local government as an institution focus on a restricted jurisdiction and provide services to people living within that jurisdiction. So local government is so focused, is focusing on a particular jurisdiction of people, is focusing on particular localities. So in this case, Ephraim Mogale can be defined as a local government. It is a municipality which is focusing on particular localities. And in this instance, the localities are the 16 wards that Ephraim Mogale is focusing on. In terms of the ward committees, the definitions that I went to check was from the Ward Committees Resource Book of 2005, and also a definition that has been provided by one of the scholars called Mapati, and also a definition provided by the scholar called Nele. But furthermore, there's a definition that is provided in the section 7.2 subsection 3 of the Local Government Municipal Structures Act of 1998. That the ward committees are defined as an organized structure that comprise of community members from the same localities elected by community members within that localities to serve as a link between the community and the municipality. That's very powerful. The ward committees are an organized structure comprising of community members from the same localities elected by community members within that locality, and they serve as a link between the community and the municipality. So the ward committees are from within a particular ward. They are elected by members of the community in that ward, and they serve as a link between that community or that ward and the municipality. When you go to community participation, there are various definitions on community participation. Motepu indicates that community participation is about communities taking part in the policy planning process to determine the output of government programs. So Motepu's view is that when we talk about community participation, it's when they are taking part in the policy planning process. Quite adds in that and say, community participation, through community participation, political leaders are held accountable by communities. And Theoron views community participation as a strategy for achieving human development. So when community participates, indirectly or directly, they advance human development. Like I said, Mapati indicates that there's no single definition of community participation. Scholars define it differently. But for the purpose of my study, I said community participation is a process involving community members in decision-making and the implementation of those decisions. So if you're saying community are participating, they must be part of the decision-making process and be part of implementing those decisions. You can't say community are participating only by developing a policy and they are not part of implementing or monitoring and evaluating the implementation of that policy. So those are the three concepts or terms that I've been looking at community participation, the ward committee, and local government. But let me give you an overview of Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality. But before I give you that overview, let me also declare that I'm doing this in my personal capacity, and my views are, the views that I'm presenting here are not representing the views of any other organization. In terms of the overview of the municipality, if you look at the population of Ephraim Mogale, you have got, there are the people under the age of 15. We've got 35% of the people of the age under 15. People who are between the age of 15 and 64, they are about 57%. And people who are over 65 years, they are around 7%. So by the look of things, you can say the Ephraim Mogale municipality has got a youthful population. Majority of the people in Ephraim Mogale are below the age of 64. So Ephraim Mogale has got a youthful population. They are all below the age of 64. Majority of them, 35%, are under the age of 15. In terms of the schooling, the population, if you look at Ephraim Mogale, we've got only 5% of the population who has got tertiary education. Out of all the population within Ephraim Mogale, it's only 5%, or we can round off and say it's around 6% of the people who are having tertiary qualification. And we've got about 19% who've got matric. And those who have got no schooling at all, they're about 23%. So we've got less people within that jurisdiction who have got tertiary education. You can also conclude that we have got less people in that jurisdiction who have got matric, because it's only about 19% of the people who have got matric within that municipality. That is an overview of Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality. If you look at unemployment rate, the total unemployment rate within Ephraim Mogale by the time of this research was at 42%, was at around 42%. And when you look at the youth unemployment rate, was at about 49%. You have got the highest unemployment rate within Ephraim Mogale. So while it's got a lot of youth, majority of them are unemployed within Ephraim Mogale. What are the empirical research findings and analysis that I've discovered during my research? Bear in mind that what were my research objectives first, and what were the research questions that I've asked for me to achieve those research objectives. When you look at the roles and responsibilities of the ward committees, because I was going there to assess the roles and responsibilities of the ward committees, the understanding of the roles and responsibility of the ward committees by the ward committees themselves and also by the ward councillors. According to some of the respondents that I've interviewed, they've indicated that the roles of the ward committees is to provide a link between the community and the municipality. Secondly, they said a role of the ward committee is to assist the councillor. The third, they said, is taking community challenges to the municipality by the ward committee. And some of the verbatim quotes from those respondents, they said, one respondent said, ward committees are advisory bodies to the municipalities and have a role of assisting in disseminating information to the communities. The other one said, the ward committee assists councillor and community. They lead when councillor is not around, attend municipal meetings and community meetings. But if you look at the ward committee resource book, it indicates that the ward committees provide community members with an opportunity to express their needs and opinions on issues that affect their lives of the communities, and the ward committees are advisory bodies created within the sphere of government to assist the wards in carrying out the mandates in a democratic manner. From the comments of the respondents, I deduce that there's a limited understanding of the roles and responsibility of the ward committees by the ward committees themselves and the ward councillors. They've got limited understanding on their roles. They reduce the roles of the ward committees as just by assisting the councillors, providing a lead, and taking community challenges to the municipalities. They reduce that only to 3 points of providing the link, assisting the councillors, and taking challenges from communities to the municipalities. They see themselves only as a bridge between municipality and the communities. So I have concluded that they've got a limited understanding of the roles and responsibilities of the ward committees as prescribed in the ward committee resource book of 2005. Because the ward committee resource book is very clear on roles and responsibilities of ward committees. On the challenges encountered by the ward committees, the following challenges were identified during my research. The ward committees indicated that one challenge that is there is the announcement of ward committee election. The ward committees indicated that there is a challenge in terms of announcing of the dates when there is time to elect ward committees. The method that has been used by, at that time, that was used by Ephraim Mogale, apparently was to advertise in some local newspapers, do outtailing, but not everybody can access a newspaper. And not everybody was able to hear the outtailing. That is what they said. But the second biggest one was political manipulation of the ward committee election process. One respondent said there is a lobbying going on before community meeting on who must be in the committee. Various political parties are doing that. One respondent said, I must make sure who serves in the committee which I'm going to chair. I'm avoiding sabotage. That was a comment from one of the councillors to say, I must make sure who serves in the committee because I'm going to chair those committee, ward committee, and I'm avoiding a sabotage. One respondent said, I was told the night before by the councillor to attend a community meeting at Moshate as I'm going to be nominated and be voted to become a ward committee member. This person did not even know if there is going to be an election. The councillor went to say, oh, go and attend the meeting because you're going to be nominated there. So the other one said, all of us were lobbied to be part of the ward committees by our political parties. Even where there's an independent councillor, there is lobbying by that councillor to ensure that he gets the people that he wants to serve in his ward committee, is the truth. So one can conclude that there's a political manipulation of the ward committee election process. So the political parties manipulate the whole process and ensure that the people who become part of the ward committees are coming from a particular political party. So ward committee members are elected on the basis of their political affiliation. They are not elected on the basis of their skills, but mostly they're elected on the basis of their political affiliation to a particular party. In terms of the relations between the ward committee members and the ward councillors, there is a view that there is no harmonious relationship between the ward committee members and the ward councillors. One respondent said the ward councillors use ward committees as their way to impose their political power and control. So there's a view that the ward councillors use the ward committees as their way to impose their political power and control. And the one respondent, who is a councillor, said, some ward committee members are already positioning themselves to be the next ward councillors. I tell them to wait and focus on their work. Communities will decide who become the next councillor. So there was a view that ward committee members are using the ward committees as a stepping stone to become a councillor. One respondent who was a ward committee member said, as a ward committee, I can do better than many councillors. They were just elected because of their faction in the organization, but they don't have capacity. So some ward committee members see councillors as people who are lacking capacity. And the other one said, they're just fortunate to be on the list of the ANC's councillors. If we can write the test together, I can score higher marks than many of them. Even some independent councillors don't have knowledge. They were elected because they're just popular and some have money to buy votes. I can do much better in council than many of them. So I can conclude, based on all these respondents, that there is no harmonious relationship between the ward committee members and the ward councillors. On the fourth thing that I was looking at, inadequate training of the ward committee members. It has emerged through my study that most of the ward committees at that time had no post-matric qualifications, and some had no matric at all as ward committee members. And what they said is that the only training that they got was from SALGA, and it was few days course on the roles of the ward committees. But one can question that if SALGA was conducting that training and some of the people who were participants there don't even have matric, how did they comprehend the training that was conducted by SALGA? On financial support provided by the municipality to ward committees, the following are the verbatim quotes from the respondent. They indicated that the municipality is giving them 1,000 rand as a stipend. And one even said, what can you do with a stipend of 1,000 rand? Councillors have got allowances like petrol, but as ward committees, if you use your car, you can't claim back your petrol cost. It's unfair. Close quote. The other one said, I really understand them when they say the stipend is very little. Maybe government must give them 5,000 rand per month. So this was a proposal from one councillor saying the ward committee members must be given at least 5,000 rand per month. The other councillor said, no, we are in a rural municipality surviving through grants. We can't afford to pay the match. But indeed, they work hard. So there was an appreciation of the work that they're doing. And also there was an appreciation that a stipend of 1,000 rand at that time was very little. But one, if you look at all these comments and look at an overview of Ephraim Mogale, due to the high levels of unemployment within that municipality, participation in the ward committees comes with employment expectation. So people are not participating in the ward committees to carry on the roles and responsibility of the ward committees. It's also having an element of, let me get the stipend for my own survival. It's called an employment expectation. Therefore, the provision of the stipend instead of a salary should be seen within that context. So people are there just to receive the stipend because of high unemployment rate within that municipality. And they see the ward committee as part of the employment, not as a role to serve the community. But when you look at the influence of municipal council by the ward committees, are the ward committees influencing municipal councils? One can conclude that ward committee members have got no influence within municipal decisions or municipal council decisions. One respondent said, they say we must comment during IDP meetings in the community because we are part of government, but we are not allowed to sit in the council and make inputs when councillors adopt a budget for the IDP. we sit at the public gallery, are we really part of the government? The other one said, you can report serious community issues to the councillors. For example, they need to fix the road. As long as the councillors in the municipality support that road, it will never be fixed. If they agree, the councillor won't give you feedback. You'll just see the contractor working on the roads without being informed as a ward committee. So a ward committee can report something to the councillor. Councillor don't give them feedback. Councillor comes and resolve it without even telling the ward committees. So those were some of the findings around this study. So in essence, one can say ward committee members don't have influence on municipal council decisions. The conclusions of the findings. I was looking at the understanding of the roles and responsibility of the ward committees by the ward committee members and even the councillors. From my studies, majority of the respondents do not understand the roles and responsibilities of the ward committees. Most of the ward committee members themselves did not understand their role and responsibilities. And some of the councillors did not understand the role and the responsibility of the ward committees. The findings further reveal that the ward committees are only interpreted as to share information with community members and submit complaints to the municipalities. So people said their role is just to receive information from the communities, pass it to the municipality. So their roles is just reduced as a conduit between community and municipalities in terms of sharing information. They are just like messengers. In terms of the challenges that the ward committee members are encountering, the study revealed that the election of the ward committee members is not communicated to all community members. And there is political manipulation of the election process. There's also poor working relationship between the ward committee members and the ward councillors. And there's also inadequate training of the ward committee members. So there is poor working relationship between the ward committees and the councillors. There is inadequate training of the ward committees. There's political manipulation of appointing of the ward committee members. Those were the challenges that were identified. What are the measures that the ward committees are taking to promote community participation? The study revealed that except calling meetings, there are no any other measures. They just call meetings. Except calling meetings, there's nothing that the ward committees are doing to ensure that community members participate in the affairs of the local municipalities. But what are the support that are provided by the municipality to the ward committees? Except the stipend, there was no any other support that I found that they are being given. Except the stipend of the 1,000 rand, there was no any other support. They were not given office spaces or stationaries or not. There was nothing except the stipend. On the issue of these ward committees influencing municipal council decision, they don't have any influence. Ward committee members, when they go to council, they sit in the public gallery and they don't have any influence on municipal council decision. And that is not only here related to Ephraim Mogale. It's the law. These people are not councillors, therefore they cannot participate in council meetings. In conclusion, the ward committees are very important in terms of promoting public participation in the municipalities. If you read all the legislation related to ward committees and read all the studies that have been done, there is consensus in this country that the ward committees are very critical in ensuring that community participate in the affairs of their government. So the ward committee system is a necessary platform to encourage community participation. The current ward committee system is really ineffective and it hampers accountability. The reason I'm saying it's ineffective is that majority of the ward committee members themselves, they don't understand their roles and responsibilities. So therefore, they cannot be effective if they don't understand their roles and responsibilities. There is no monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of Ephraim Mogale public participation operational policy. There's no monitoring and evaluation. There's a policy there, but there's no monitoring and evaluation if that policy really achieves its intended objectives. And I therefore concluded that the municipality must develop mechanisms to ensure that there is effective community participation in terms of delivery of basic services in that community. The recommendations. Participation in the ward committees. The question that one has to ask is that who is eligible to be a ward committee member? In order for us to combat undue political influence on the appointment of these ward committees, I recommended that this ward committee position must be advertised, and community members who are willing to serve as ward committee members must apply for this position, be screened and be interviewed by a panel, not including the ward councillors. So there must be a panel that is responsible for people to screen and interview people who want to become ward committees. In that way, you can avoid political manipulation of the process. But also, to avoid having ward committee members who are over the age of 35, because when I looked at the demographics, some of these ward committee members were over the age of 50 and not even having matric. So the municipality should develop a clear policy saying, we are going to focus on below the age of 35, and we can only take those people as ward committee members. In this case, you focus on youth. Remember, we've got a high unemployment rate of youth within Ephraim Mogale. You can then channel their energy to become ward committee members. Develop a policy which says, for people to be ward committee members, they must be below the age of 35. And they must be having grade 12. If you've got the grade 12s and they're below the age of 35, and you bring them as ward committee members, in that you can also develop a skills program that during the duration of their ward committee term, you can provide trainings to them, accredited training, so that by the time they exit, they've got a qualification. So you can even use this ward committee system as part of internship program. In terms of training and capacity building, maybe one of the recommendations that I did was that the municipality should engage the accredited SETA like LG SETA, so that the LG SETA should provide accredited trainings continuously to the ward committees. First, we must identify the relevant training needs, and municipality must conduct a skills audit of all the ward committee members, so that the training should be relevant to address their skills gap. You can't just have a generic training without conducting a skills audit. So in this case, all ward committee members were just taken into a training and there was no skills audit done to them. But the second thing of training, it can be addressed by the first level of saying who becomes a ward committee. It should be young people below the age of 35, having grade 12. Then you can provide the proper training. But if you take people who are over the age of 60, who don't know how to read and write, even if you take them to training, their focus there is just to enjoy, and I'm sorry to say this, their focus there is just an outing. They are there in Setabiseni, having a nice time. They don't even understand the workshops. Because most of them, they might be over the age of 50 and they cannot read and write. So if they're going for a workshop, it's just an outing. In fact, it's a wasteful expenditure. In terms of the strategy to encourage community participation must not be reduced to consultation only through meetings. the ward committee members should explore various social media platforms to encourage community participation. The community within Ephraim Mogale should participate in all the policy-making process of the municipality. We cannot wait only for IDP processes, and when the ward committees will call a meeting, there should be a platform where community members, they can give their input on policy issues, they can initiate programs. Therefore, the ward committees within their ward, they should look at various social media platforms where they can engage on issues of development within committees. You can create WhatsApp groups, you can create Facebook groups where you discuss developmental issues within your ward as a ward committee, and not wait for the day that there must be just an IDP meeting, there must be a meeting called by the municipality. Ward committees should be developmental in their approach. In terms of administrative support, the municipality must explore with existing government structures at local level. For example, community health clinics, the schools and constituency office. If these ward committee members cannot be working closely with other structures of the community. For instance, you find ward committee members who are struggling to make photocopies. But these people can be linked with already existing structures within communities like the SGPs, the local clinic, the schools, the constituency offices, where they can be able to make copies and make phone calls, because some of them take the very same stipend that municipalities pay them. They buy their own airtime to make calls. So we need to find a way of linking them with already existing structures within communities that can give them administrative support. And in closing, I've proposed other further research. So for those who want to study further, maybe they can look at the following topics: analyzing the relationship between the traditional council and the municipal ward committees within Ephraim Mogale. That can be one of the research areas. An analysis of the relationship between the traditional councils and the municipal ward committees within Ephraim Mogale. The other area of research can be the effectiveness of our accountability mechanism for ward councillors in Ephraim Mogale. How are the ward councillors accounting within Ephraim Mogale? The other area of research that one can look at is look at community participation in the sphere of the provincial government. Because here I was looking at community participation at local government and Ephraim Mogale. So one can look also at community participation at provincial government. How is provincial government managing community participation? So that is a summary of my dissertation on the ward committees within Ephraim Mogale. The study is available. I conducted the study in 2015 and concluded in 2017 and graduated early 2018. So I thank all those who supported me, especially the leadership of the Ephraim Mogale at that time, who gave me an opportunity and access to interview various ward committee members and even the ward councillors. I thank you so much, and I can take questions from them. Thank you so much. I'm ready for questions.
Okay. My first question is, local government, the whole budget, is it determined by provincial government? Are they dependent on a stipend given by provincial government to local government, and then they spread that to the ward committees? And also, I would like to find out what skills did you find in the group which makes up the ward committees? What skills did they have, besides the fact that some of them didn't have matric? Did they have any experience in anything related to community liaison? because that's basically what they do. But also, what framework, besides the fact that people from the same community or have to be in the same community? Or was there, because there is a framework of how they select people, but is it something that is decided only word of mouth, or is it really in policy that the selection process that they have? Thank you.
Thank you, Kolani. In terms of the budget to local government, the Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality, let me say first, municipalities receive grants from Treasury, but municipalities that are also having capacity, financial capacity, they collect revenue through the levies and whatever from the residents. But most of the rural municipalities like Ephraim Mogale, a bulk of its budget is grants because they don't collect the revenue. Majority, they are a B4 level municipality, which comprises of rural areas. And in rural villages or rural areas, you don't pay for services like collection of dustbins, and so the municipalities relies on a grant purely. I did not do a deeper analysis on how much, but I can thumbs up and say over 90% of their areas. It's only one area where they are collecting some revenues from the shops, and also few people paying for various levies. In terms of the skills of this group, I did not find any skill related to community liaison. Remember, the findings were that there was a political manipulation on how these people are elected. So they're not elected on the basis of their competency. They are elected on the basis of them being aligned to a particular political party. In terms of the framework, I think that's the same answer. People are not, the process of electing them is not based on any framework. It's just a community meeting where people are electing, raising their hands and so, no, I nominate Sediko. Second, that let's vote. How many hands are saying supporting Sediko? No, 5. No, then Sediko is the one. So there's no particular framework of saying, this is what we're going to look at if we're going to elect this particular person. Those are the answers to you, Kolani. Thank you so much. Commissioner, Councillor Mashweshwe, your hand is up.
Hey, leadership, how's it?
I'm okay, and you, Councillor Mashweshwe?
I am doing fine, man. Mine is just to applaud you with the work that you have done, especially the research with Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality. But I also wanted to touch on the issue of the Hore and Mishate.
Yes.
Because normally when electing ward committees, we come across this challenge whereby people have already agreed on a certain name.
Yes.
Then never advise like Mishate, see?
Yes.
Then it becomes very difficult for you to say, no, I don't want this person, because if they will just raise hand and people are afraid to confront Mushat or one. Yes. So that's one of the challenges we encounter. So, but I'm glad to raise the issue where we must develop a policy. I think one of the things we will address these issues in Tona and Mushat. Okay, that was my input, leadership. Thanks.
Thank you, Mashweshwe. I picked it up in terms of manipulation, and that's why I'm proposing that maybe there should be a policy which says people must apply, and there must be a panel to select and interview people. Because if there's an influence of Horego Kaikai, we'll just look at somebody who's Wanabo Mamang and Obo Mamang, what's Fanesabo Mamang. Then we'll overlook people with capacity because they're not related to us. So now I can lobby Councillor Mashoe or Councillor Motsebe because they're related, even though I don't have a skill. So almost a skill, but not related to us, will be overlooked. And in that, it affects also the delivery of services because
Yes.
So we need to develop a policy that says, let people apply. For instance, if one position there, 10 what committees, let's advertise them, elect a panel, an independent panel to interview people, let them contest for those positions, and we appoint the best of the best. If we want to achieve effective service delivery. Councillor Mashoe. Councillor Motsebe.
Yeah, Ereke just makaseki acknowledge the presentation. You have done a very good job, and I think we will also appreciate as councillors because currently to operate with what committees that are not guided properly. Remember, in the municipality, it actually boils down. I so wish for your study could have also touched the issue of starting with the councillors, package the councillors with the what committees. Remember, we are elected as councillors, and what committees are also elected. Actually, they account to communities. Remember the stipend of the what committees. It also comes from Coxter, whereby the council itself, we must then go to council and determine or decide if we can increase their stipend or not. Now, if now that framework, because currently it's aligned with the national framework, if we move and give the municipality the powers as well to deal with the what committee stipends and other issues, or maybe those frameworks of public participation, I think we will also move to the right direction. Currently, we believe me, you are correct. We are sitting with what committees who doesn't even know how to read and write, but because they were influential or they were the ones who were making more noise during the meeting or maybe lobbied more. It's an issue of lobbying currently. If you can lobby, then you're going to get more numbers, which is democratic elections. So currently, I think as a municipality, you are correct. We need to go back and sit and talk about it. But I just hope in going forward, we need to also engage further and talk about starting with what councillors. We must have interviews. People must be interviewed. There must be a criteria. We need to set out certain criteria that needs to be followed before whether we quickly move to the application process and interviews. Even if it's elections, there must be a process of screening. Say maybe we were unable to move to that one of applications with the CVs and others, but we still open that process of elections starting as a starting point. But we also need that criteria. If we could set the criteria and also engage SALGA and the other stakeholders inside, I think that would work better because currently, as councillors, we are saying we've got what committees, but the lot of work is on councillors' shoulders. That is why we even don't push what committees to do more work. As we understand that the stipend is doing nothing. It's actually nothing for them. That was my comment. Actually, it's not a question. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Motsebe. I know some political parties, because the process of electing councillors is a two process. Some councillors comes as independent candidates, some comes through political parties. I know some political parties are developing a process now through what they call electoral college, where there will be a thorough process of saying, why do you bring in a name of Rakolote here to be a councillor? Let's screen Rakolote. If you're bringing the name of Rakolote, let's screen Rakolote to check if he has got the competencies of becoming a councillor. So some political parties are embarking on that process because they've discovered for over the years, some of the councillors, not all, some of the councillors have been there but not doing their duties. And they've been not they were not competent in doing their duties. On the issue of the stipend, I know it's been handled through Salga, but as council, you have got the powers to influence policy positions. If you start this discussion within your municipality, then it can be escalated within a region and becomes a regional position, Sukukune region, a position in terms of the stipends of ward committees. In particular, the stipend of ward committees members who are in rural municipalities. Because if I'm a ward committee member in Tshwane, the dynamics are different. If you give me that 1,000 rand, might be enough because it's easier for me to access an internet. When I want to travel between one point to another, it's easy to get a public transport. But when I'm in Ephraim Mogale, for me to travel from the other area, Mabiti or wherever to Mablo Hall, it's difficult. So the stipend should be looked at on the issues of the municipality itself. The rural municipality should be given a priority in terms of the stipend of the ward committees. It should be different. But that should be a lobbying position by your municipality. Then you take it to the region and you take it now to the province to say, let's start lobbying on the issue of the stipend of the ward committee members. But you can't lobby for them to be paid more while you forget lobbying that you must get quality. You must pay for quality. You don't just have to pay for the sake of paying. There must be quality, therefore you can be saying, we got this quality, but you must pay it well. You must pay this quality very well. Thank you, Memo Zibi.
Thank you.
Can I add a comment?
Yes, Kolani.
I think then the problem becomes more systematic when it becomes more quantitative than qualitative. And I wish maybe the study could have been a mixed method, where you also look at if local municipalities are dependent on tariffs from those communities, the high unemployment rate is not going to help because you need an economy, so to speak. You need people who work in order for you to ensure that the tariffs from the local municipality is enough. And by saying that, you're in a stronger position to lobby for a higher stipend. But also, it becomes an issue of education, where the training of people and the people who actually do the training need to reevaluate. If you're going to form a ward committee, that ward committee needs to represent departments in local municipality, which means you need people who are skilled in identifying what resources are available in those communities to create employment, to create programs and projects of which the youth can benefit. Because if you're going to draw youth into these projects and they realize that there's no motivation for them to stay, they're not going to give their best, they're going to leave. So, for instance, what we did in Ikache in Potchefstroom is we identified old people who are making what's this soap. They were making soap. So we just taught them how to make soap, taught them the finances of making soap, taught them the marketing of making soap, and then we left them with a project that's going to feed them and the community. So we need also initiatives like that, entrepreneurship initiatives that are going to ensure there's an economy in these local municipalities to pull people out. And rural areas are known mostly for farming, so if it is an option, then those agricultural projects can happen. Also, what could be best is creating a system of apprenticeships, where you select youth, I hope youth with matric, you select youth with matric, make a deal with provincial government or even local government, give them a contract for 2 years. You don't have to pay them if it's local government. Where you teach them work, teach them how to do the work, where they move from department to department, learning how to do the work, and then we can place them in local municipalities as part of these advisory boards, where they can teach what they know to those around them. So you can have this system of transitional knowledge, and you have something to work with from there. It makes it easier for these projects to happen. So I think the biggest part in South Africa is employment. If you're living in an economy that is dependent on social grants, it's difficult for you to ask for anything, because people are already concerned with their own lives. They cannot, if you don't have a job and you're living below the level, you're living in poverty, so to speak, you wouldn't volunteer to give your time and effort to something that's not going to help you in your own situation. So I think we need realistic systems, realistic structures, and realistic institutions to not only motivate people to work for their communities, but also alleviate those communities. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Komani, I can see that you are raising up your hand.
Thanks, Dr. Rakolote. Perhaps let me start by appreciating your exciting and intellectually stimulating work on Ephraim Mogale. Now, I would like to ask a number of questions, if you allow me.
Yes.
Perhaps firstly, just in terms of the broader framework for the study, I'm curious in terms of your socio-economic profile of the municipality, that with regards to age, your disaggregation was, I think, 3 categories, and there was one between 15 and 64. Now, I'm trying to, and this is against the backdrop of the issues you've raised later in the presentation about literacy and youth and engagement and so forth. That 15 to 64, because for me developmentally, I am struggling to find a connection there. Be that as it may, if you allow me, I think also we need to, in trying to interpret the study, I'm trying to understand the correlation, because your study focuses or zooms into ward committees, but you've got other segments of local government, especially, I mean, your definition was quite clear and elaborate on what are the levels and who is local government in totality. Now, the understanding of roles by or of ward committees is but one segment. You also got ward councils, and let me also greet my colleagues and friends and comrades from Ephraim Mogale and councillors. But you've got ward councillors, you've got the council itself, and then you've got the municipality as a bureaucratic a system. And then beyond that, you will then have to think of the interface between local government, or the 3 spheres of government, if you like. Now, your study focuses on the understanding of the role of ward committees. Is there any correlation in terms of the understanding by ward councillors of their role vis-a-vis that of the other segments, the understanding of council and how it interplays with the bureaucratic municipal system itself, but also with the political sphere, whether it's Maroshi and so forth. So that we locate the understanding of the role of ward committees within the broader value chain of who else is involved and whether they understand their role, so that each does not step onto the other's terrain, as it were. But I think, broadly speaking, the issue of participation has to do, in my view, with quite an explicit disconnection between the populace and government in general. So you've got a disconnect, people, or apathy, if you like, a developmental apathy or social apathy, or even political apathy that is quite dominant in our society. Now, in that space, participation by ordinary citizens or folks through the ward committees you need to also unpack that, so that the blame is not entirely on ward committees. People are disengaged and disinterested sometimes in things political or things government outside of their direct benefit. So I think that might also be interesting for me in terms of your findings. But I think also we're talking about the youth and how they should be party to or central to developmental space, right? ICT and new media. I mean, you've spoken about what committees using platforms like social media. My observation is that even in rural communities, most young people have got, if you like, smartphones, for lack of a better word, right? And they're engaged in Facebook and all manner of media for things not developmental. I think it might be interesting to see how such spaces could be transformed, or they could be enticed, you know, to engage young people, because participation is about engagement. And I think Mr. Tolan is I think quite instructive in saying that, you know, you need an economy first. Young people will not be engaged in developmental issues or local government issues outside of seeing benefits that enhances their livelihoods and their being. So social media and new media and other you know, ICT spaces, and what committees could leverage those spaces for you know, for increasing or improving participation. I think that would be my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Komane. You will agree with me that in terms of an academic study, you zoom into a particular topic. It will be difficult to research various variables. You can't research various variables because you might be taking many years to conclude your study. So I zoomed specifically into the ward committees. But if you look at my proposed area of further research, I propose that there must be an analysis of the relationship between the traditional councils and the municipal ward committees, and also effectiveness in terms of accountability of the ward councillors. And we can look at community participation in other spheres of government, like the provincial government. So for this study, I was only focusing on the ward committees, but I'm proposing further studies by other scholars. And maybe one day when I think of pursuing my PhD, I can focus on, build up on this and say, no, now let me focus on the ward councillors and the other spheres of government. In terms of socioeconomic spheres within the municipalities, there's a direct correlation between the high level of literacy and a number of many ward committee members not being literate. So there's high level of literacy around that area. And therefore, if you want ward committee members, you're going to choose amongst the very same people who are illiterate. And because the process itself of electing this ward committee is not a stringent process of electing the best among the best. One councillor here says some people are just being imposed by the whole. So you don't have these measures to say, in this process, we want only those who are having matric or who are only having grade 10 or upwards. It's just any other person who's available can serve as a ward committee, as long as this person has got a vote amongst the communities. So those were the things that I found. But I agree with you, a further study is required to check also the issues of the councillors, if they understand their roles and responsibilities, to check also the interrelations between all the spheres of government in terms of promoting community participation. I also agree with Kolan when we say we look at the issue of economy. But as it stands, the Ephraim Mogale relies on the grant from national. Majority of the bulk of its money comes from national as a grant. Therefore, the national should also be lobbied in terms of the way they are allocating resources. Rural municipalities should be given a preference in terms of the resources, in terms of allocating resources. We can't be having rural municipalities given only a little amount, because now big municipalities that have got financial measures get more money. Then small municipalities who don't have even financial masses get little money. Then there is a skewed pattern of allocation of resources from national government. So we should start lobbying national government in terms of allocation of resources of these municipalities. Thank you, Dr. Koman. We are about to end. I will take last questions, and if there are no questions, I will close.
Yeah. And Tate Rakolote, I just wanted to maybe when you do your further studies, the correction as well of the abbreviation, Ephraim Mogale, the one you've got here, Elias Mogale Local Municipality. You'd remember that you've got a P.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that typing error. Renarnali P, it's EPMLM.
Okay.
So there was one time where I thought his studies are Ephraim Elias Mogale, but because I know or why, then I said, no, this is a typing error.
Yeah.
But I just want to take this opportunity and say, this should be your document, your study paper should be the base of our council and the executive committee as well going forward. I would also like us to take it further with the mayor and also look at it and engage with you and see how best can we change the current situation as Ephraim Mogale, because I feel you have done a great job for us, and we always needed a base, somebody to stand up and say, hey, this is what we need to do, this is where we need to start. Remember, the municipality is over itself, as we were saying. Really, the Ephraim Mogale Local Municipality, we are 95% rural. We don't have that stream of revenue collections. We actually relying, we are correct when we are saying we are relying on grant. Own revenue is too little, but hence our equitable share is too little, our grants are too little. We are being treated like we are one size fits all, whereas we are not. So I think this will also assist us as a council to engage further with the relevant stakeholders so that we can decide on it and see if we cannot do the, pilot. We cannot be one municipality that will pilot this exercise of what committees in changing what is currently happening. I'm glad it happened now during COVID-19 because it really gives us a chance to sit down and look at it and see how we change things going forward. Thank you so much for all your effort. And Tate Rakolote, re a leboga.
The mayor, but thank you so much for participating in this engagement. I really appreciate your time.
Sorry.
And
Sorry. Can I just make one more comment? One last comment.
you can make it that comment.
I think also a good idea would be using the universities around these areas because we don't utilize them. They have a responsibility by government to be involved in community engagement projects. They are obligated to be involved in community engagement projects. So we can use these universities for knowledge. You can tell them to use you to help you with the research in terms of your problems and how you can address the problems and how big the problems are, as well as help you with fundraising. Because I think we lack in South Africa a culture of fundraising where everything is dependent on government and how much government can give us, which is okay. But we know that the economy is not as good as it should be for us to be always reliant on government. So fundraising is very important, and these universities can help in terms of giving that. You can make a proposal and tell them what is it that we need as councillors, what is it that we need as ward committees, and then from there they can help you with it. I think, yeah, they also have organizations in these universities. I don't know if it's there. I think Univen has it that deals with entrepreneurship, and they can come and assess these local municipalities and see what resources are available and how they can use those resources to create or to improve the small businesses which are there. I think these are all avenues that should be followed, that should be taken and explored in order for these municipalities to make money for themselves first, and hold government reliable for the rest. Thanks. That was my last comment.
Thank you, Director Lane. This municipality we're talking about, the nearest university is about 160 kilometers away from it. So there is no university around them. You've got one TVET college, maybe 45 kilometers away, and one agri college. So it's really a deep rural municipality. But if I'm sure they were very, very close to university, they will have approached it. But yes, from my side also, I know various institutions that are supporting rural municipalities like the GTZ and others. I will engage the councillors from that side to say, how do we approach other development agencies to assist our municipality? The reason I did this study at Ephraim Mogale, one is that I'm biased because I'm coming from that area. That's the reason why I wanted to do that study. I should have chosen another municipality, but because I'm from that area, I decided, no, I must go and study, do a study in my own municipality and give them the findings, and then take it further to say, these are the findings, then how do we work together now to improve the situation? Thank you so much, colleagues, for your participation. Have a lovely afternoon, and please be safe. Thank you so much.
Have you ever presented to the then executive committee or council on this study?
Okay.
Or
no.
If we want to invite you to come and present, would you be able to come so that you come and present to council and the executive committee so that we're able to take things further from here, from where we are?
Okay. The direct answer is that I did not have chance to present to the previous council on this study. I completed my study around 2017 to the 2018. So I did not present to the previous council.
Okay, so you've got a chance to make yourself available so that you come and present to the current council before the end of the term.
Yeah,
the mayor is listening.
I'm sure others will not say to me I'm biased. For Ephraim Mogale Municipality, I'm always available. For Ephraim Mogale Municipality, I'm always available. So thank you, colleagues. I will therefore wait for the date where I'll be invited to come and present to council. I'm readily available. I'll make time. I'll make time. I will polish my shoes and make sure that I've got a nice tie. Then come and present. I'm readily available. Like I said, that municipality made me who I am today. I was born and raised in that municipality. Whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, whether inside the country or outside the country, I'm always referring that I was born and bred in that area. I'm proud of that municipality. So when they call me, I'll come running. That's where I get my mandate from. My marching orders are coming from the front. So,
thank you.
Yeah, say.
No, Manikini Kavale problem and network. I was on the road, Mara. I'll catch up with the
Yeah. Those are the other areas that we should address. Issues of network in the rural municipalities.
Yes.
We should address. We should engage the network providers on how do you address issues of network in rural municipalities. Because in urban municipalities they don't face that challenge. Why should the people in the rural areas face the challenge of networks? We should also take that conversation forward.
I agree.
Then we must summon the service providers to come and account to say what are they doing for rural people in terms of accessing the network, because it's a right to have those facilities.
True.
You are paying for a contract, but you can't connect to the internet. See,
we need to unite Councillor Mabaso and take that fight forward to say they must account, to say they must assist us in having the network, proper network in rural areas, especially during now of this COVID-19. And when you say kids must do online learnings and e-learnings and whatever, you can't do it if you don't have facilities. So it's a conversation.
It's a problem.
It's a conversation for another day. Let's also try and summon the Deputy Minister of Communications, Pingi Gakana, who comes from that province, to come and address the issues of network challenges in that area. I'll start a discussion with her. I'll take it up with her to say we've got a challenge. We want her to come and talk about issues of network in our villages.
Rakolote.
Tama.
Lagana.
Mayor.
Hey, my colleagues, how are you?
Good and you, Mayor.
No, you can't see my face because the background is not that good today. But I appreciate the effort. It's just that my apology for joining late, man. I had other errands during the day. I was only reminded by Councillor Mashashe just now. But I think it is proper that even if we arrange for Rakolote to come down, it not necessarily to come down. We can use the same platform and inform all the councillors. Let me take it upon me and Councillor Mutsepe to request the Office of the Speaker to just arrange this platform. I think maybe next week you can be able to present to the entire Council of Ephraim Mogale and the management. That's my view. We don't have to wait when the lockdown relax you to level one start. You must come down and present. There are another issue council we are using this platform.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, and what I will do, and I've shared the full dissertation with some of your colleagues, and you can share it with all the councillors so that they can read it before I come and present. And I'll just give a summary, and they can ask me questions based on the full dissertation. I've shared the full dissertation with other colleagues, and I'm sure they can share it with you, Majoro.
Yeah, we'll share it with the mayor as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Senti Chaisha, man. Chaisha Senti.